relationship between husband and wife. Are you guys, let's all get back. And I would appreciate during this topic to have limited of kids who are understanding. What I want to talk about, we're going to talk about conflict resolution. We're going to talk about relationship. Remember I mentioned earlier, my love towards my wife is conditional. How many guys agree with me? How many understand? Любовь к моей жене с условием. The love to my children is without condition. God's love towards us is unconditional. Same thing with that for our kids. The moment you become a child of God, His love is unconditional. So, what does it mean my love is conditional to my wife? Or her love is conditional to me? We have a binding agreement which is based on faithfulness between us. If I'm 99% faithful, but there was one time, am I faithful or unfaithful? 0.5%, unfaithful. Automatically, you have broken the vow. Then the person in reality, she's no longer bound to you, or he's no longer bound to you. So, my thing is that we're going to talk about this, the differences in conflicts. Let's go ahead and talk about conflicts before we get into relationship. There was a pastor in Georgia, Franklin Jensen. He had a marriage conference. He asked this question. There were maybe 500 couples, maybe more. Maybe 1,000 couples. I don't know. It's a big church. How many of you guys never fight and argue? Please stand up. Вставай, Leo. So about 200 couples stood up. There was over a couple thousand, 3,000 I think couples below. About 200 couples stood up and everybody started clapping for them. He goes, sit down. Rest of you guys sit down, and other people that didn't sit down, stand up. Let's pray for these liars. There's no such thing that when somebody says they never disagree, they never argue. There's only one condition based on it. Let me ask you a question. Do you fight with your friend's wife? No. You argue with people that you care for. You're trying to get your point across. If you don't have disagreements and arguments with your spouse, either you're lying or you're on the verge of divorce. What does it mean when you don't care what they say? You don't care about their feelings. You completely care less. Or you have somebody on the side that you're living in sin. That's the only reason. But as long as we're in relationship all the time, we argue. Let me tell you about our biggest argument. Huh? There you go. Let me tell you about our biggest argument. Honey, you ready for this one? So we got married. Everything goes really well. So first year, my wife's birthday's coming around. Half a year later, she goes, honey, we don't have a lot of money. Don't buy me anything. Okay? I heard that. So we were in a store many times. She goes, I would love to have this bedroom set, like the blankets. You know what I mean? The set. Postel. Beddings. There you go. I would love that. She a couple times said it was more than I could afford, but then birthday coming, I saved up money on the side.
It was on our wedding
registry. Nobody bought it for us.
Nobody bought it for us.
We tried. So her birthday comes around, and I ordered that bedding. It was like $400, guys. It was ridiculous. We still use it this day, trying to get our money worth. Yeah, still for real. We still use it. Yep. The bottom line is we'll come in day after her birthday. So, я дуже опытный married person, very experienced married person. Her birthday comes around, I ignore the birthday. I pretend it doesn't exist. So I'm just trying to, she told me not to celebrate it. So the birthday comes around, and she doesn't know. It's not my fault. It's not going to come in the same.
And it's on Sunday.
And it's on Sunday. And they couldn't deliver it they're going to deliver this package on Monday. everything she ever wanted. I've never heard somebody cry with pain in my life so much. My wife, she just broke down in tears. How can you forget? Go ahead, honey.
No, I was waiting all day for just like a card or a rose. I mean, we were broke as a joke. Like, we were barely paying for our apartment. And since I did not receive a card or even one rose, by the time in the evening rolled in, you know, it was already dark. It's February. Yeah, I was in tears. I'm like, what is happening? What is going on? And yeah, that was like our big. I think we were married for 5 months then. No, more, 7 months. That was our biggest disappointment in me.
No.
For me.
The thing is that what I should have done then.
Just don't fight right now.
What should I have done? First of all, I should have acknowledged it. Don't give away to have a gift, but at least buy a card or flowers or both. You know what I mean? Have you noticed that most of your arguments, when you go back in time, they're really stupid and silly? How many guys can testify to that? None of them are really big. Yeah, like, well, shit, like we were fighting about that, arguing about that. It is very different. When today we give premarital counseling in our church, we do premarital counseling with married people who get married. We learn so much. Nobody literally sat down with us and gave us 25 lessons like we do. It's just that nobody talked to us. How many of you guys had premarital counseling? God bless you. Did it benefit your marriage? Depends. Well, let me tell you something. There's premarital counseling that they sit down with you. Ты спала с ним? Не. Okay, good. Пошли дальше. Do you understand that? This is not, I'm not talking about like trying to see. Yeah, but for example, yeah, they're still together. No, what we did, we do, the way we do premarital counseling, we talk about arguments, how to resolve, how to avoid them. A lot of arguments are based around couple spheres. In-laws, money, and kids. Yes. 3 things there are. In-laws, money, and children. If you think about your disagreements, always they're going in one of these spheres. If your disagreements and arguments because of sin, then it's a different level. Church. Ministry. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. We can bring up, the thing is that, first of all, let's look at in-laws. When we do premarital counseling, we talk about one thing. The moment you get married, you're a new family. I tell them, your mama, your papa has no influence in your marriage. They can advise. Same thing, equal. Because a lot of times they can guilt trip you. When they come to your house, what do they have to do? Knock on the door.
Or you call.
The decisions that you make is between you and your wife, not your mama, not your dad. No, but it doesn't make a difference. The biblical word, кто не заботится о доме своем, is no longer about your extended family. Your extended family are your brothers and your sisters. Your immediate family becomes your husband, your wife, and your children. You want to avoid the arguments with your spouse because of in-laws, draw perimeters and draw a line. Number 2, if you have problems in family, never bring it out to your parents. I'll tell you one thing. You bring it out to your parents, they will never respect your husband ever again. And it's all you're doing. They will always, no як там твій Андрій, що? They would always, in a way, put him down. Go ahead.
No, I agree. Your mom or even your dad, whoever you have a relationship with closer, they will never view your husband. When you guys live 10 years, 20 years, they will always remember the argument you shared with your mom or your dad with, or your sister. But we're talking about right now with, in-laws or your parents.
Even siblings. Yeah.
Even siblings. Like some things I wish I did not know about my sister's family because I can never look at her husband the same way. it stays with you. So it's good to keep it within each other. And that's why I'm saying better to stay up 2-3 hours at night, resolve whatever you're going through. Better go to a pastor or a minister than go to your family. The minister, by God's, law or his, conscience, he will keep it a secret. Your family will not. They're not obliged to keep it a secret. And then your mom will tell her best friend or dad or aunt or somebody else. And then everybody knows a silly issue that you had, half your family will know.
That is very, very important. Yes, Alena underlined something very important. You have ministers in church. We've never went to ministers, praise God. We work things out always ourselves. But we do have people who come and sit down and counsel them. That's what we're here for as pastors, ministers. Believe me, it is us, God, and you. There's no intention to harm you. There's so many people that come in with different backgrounds, so much different baggage. And the pain that's inside of people when they come into marriage sometimes so great, and they hurt other person because they were hurt. Today we have a lot of people come with different backgrounds. Parents were abusive. We even counsel people where husband was physically abusive. Or a wife physically abusive. There's a lot of pain that's in literally certain things that as ministers can never, that we have to, when somebody's physically abusive towards the wife, we have to report it. But that's a different topic. So one thing is that to avoid this conflict with your wife, keep everything within means of your marriage, your sanctuary. Don't take it out to somebody else. Talk about it, work it out. Seek God's help, seek God's guidance, and utilize the church ministers. Sit down, invite them, talk to them. That's what they're here for. Number 2, we talked about finances. How many guys fall in this category sometimes? So, я таки, знаєте, пішов в Home Depot, купив tool set. Потім пішов ще. It was very difficult in our family because I'm the spender. My wife is very conservative in money. So it's a little bit around. So for her, she'll go to the store. She goes, hey, honey, I have this dress. I found this dress. I'm like, how much? $30. Why are you calling me? But that's how she is. And then she goes, I don't know. What do you think? I'm like, if you like it, I like it. So this is, so the problem comes in that I would go make big decisions. And we're financially tight. And we would have a conflict. For example, when I was single, every day I would go to Starbucks. $3.25 for Americano. We got married, and then it increased to 2 coffees a day. When we got married, my wife's like, we can't afford to drink coffee for you to go to Starbucks. So, I come home. Did you go to Starbucks? What should I say? You did, huh? I'm like, honey, you married me the way. That's the way I am. And we would have this argument for years. Then at the end of the year, she's a really good accountant. She would bring it up to me. You spent $3,000 on Starbucks. I'm just giving an example, rough number to call. No, if you calculate it, $7 per day. Calculate it, this is about a couple $1,000, plus, minus, because sometimes you want 4 coffees. It's important to work with your wife. But guys and girls, don't put your spouse in a position to hide it from you.
May I ask you a question?
Da.
Okay, if you have 2 financially unresponsible people in a family, it's a disaster.
Then you're broke.
This is where budget comes in.
Yeah.
Budgeting.
Yeah, no, 2 people got married, they have lots of budgeting skills, so their family is designed to crash financially. It's just someone has to take this responsibility. But there is a problem. If your wife was telling you about this, honey, we don't have money because this is where they go and this is wrong, and you would ignore it and stubbornly keep doing what you were doing, this is not building up the family. So the person who has a strong strong part. So if she's financially strong, you should listen to her advice.
100%.
But if she is weak in something else, like in patience, but you have a lot of patience, then she should kind of go towards you, because here's where's the weak part. You should listen to your partner, because if you will stubbornly ignore it, you are destroying family and making argument with your own hand.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. And the things that we're talking about, different conflicts that people have, I completely agree. Let me give you another example. That there was when we got married around Christmas time, I got off work early, and I went to the mall. We didn't have no cell phones then, because before I got married, had a cell phone, but then we didn't have a cell phone because it was really expensive. And so my wife calls my work, hey, oh, he left early. She begins to panic. 2 hours later, I'm not home. I'm sitting, trying to buy Christmas gifts for home. She called everyone in our church. She thought, it took a while for me to adjust that I am married, that somebody cares, gotta know. I moved to Georgia by living by myself, not accountable to anybody, do whatever, I was a youth pastor, but it was freelance. It took a little time for me to adjust that my wife wants to know. Not micromanage, wants to know. In regards to finances, what we do, just very open with each other and try to work it out. Obviously, nobody's trying to harm or hurt each other. But we all have to be a little bit more compassionate so the other spouse doesn't hide things from you. There's a core in the problem in there. And when you confront them, and I've seen or heard people have problems, the wife goes to the store, she buys that, she hides it for about a month in a closet. Is there? Somebody's turning red already. So he hides it and then waits for a moment how to properly approach it. There has to be a trust between each other that you can be, obviously, you care to make sure that finances and everything is budgeted correctly. Go ahead, honey. You want to add more to it?
No, the budgeting and asking and deciding what you guys need will avoid a lot of conflict. Just talking things over, your big purchases will solve a lot of problems, not financial problems, and between each other, no tension.
What to talk about kids?
About conflict about kids?
Because of kids.
Yeah, sometimes there is, if we have different view on how I think we should do a situation and how he does, I think I usually give you the last word. Whatever Tato says, our kids know. Whatever Tato says, that's how it's going to be. I can work on him and say maybe, well, think about it. Maybe don't answer him right now. But as a dad, my kids know that he will take the last word.
The thing is, but it's not like she pushes it at me, I push it at her. Because the kids come to her, and like, whatever mom says, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a mutual thing. It's not like we're trying to, because kids will play you, trust me. And one of the biggest things is that when kids, something goes wrong, I'm like, it's because you did it. You permitted them to do it. And that opens up a door for a conflict. You guys understand what I'm saying? Te dopustila. And automatically bounce it back forth. Because we're always, in the nature inside of us, we're trying to justify ourselves that я правильно все, I did everything correctly. And one of the biggest things is that take responsibility. You're in this together. There's moments that, one of the things that arguments should not be abusive. And sometimes when we have disagreements, I will go back like years back. Hey, remember this, you said this? And my wife automatically says what?
We cannot go backwards. We have to stick to what we are discussing right now. No going back, no remembering what happened years ago. We are discussing whatever we're discussing right now.
So when you say, remember when this happened, or this or that, that's out of category because you're just creating out of a small conflict, what? Something bigger. You're digging a hole. And this thing is going to go last longer and longer and longer. To avoid a conflict that you're having to ignore it, it doesn't mean you resolved it. You buried it. Over a period of time, it will come back around. If you hurt, absolutely should not be any name calling. Absolutely, you should never have any physical abuse. And I mean, there's a lot of men that call their wives very bad names. There's a lot of women who call their husbands losers. You're not like somebody else. That's out of category. Should not exist in Christian family, because it will destroy their identity. It's something very damaging. Based on your relation with each other, it will take you to the next stage, romance, intimacy. We're going to talk about intimacy for a little bit. Intimacy is one of the most important parts of marriage. Go ahead, Val.
Before we go to the next subject, the wife was worried where you were 2 hours when you were not telling her where you were, right?
Mm.
How to know when there's a normal worry about your wife worries normally about you? Sometimes he's дух ревности. I know a lot of families split because of that. There was не было у мужа никакого ревновать.
Yeah. Jealousy.
Making jealousy stories. It's like an evil spirit that's destroying
Yes.
family. How to know when it's still healthy, and how to know when the person is delivered from
Yeah.
this experience.
Yeah. We were sitting once in we came to Portland. We were visiting friends, and our friends Alena and I and his wife were standing outside. He went to Baskin Robinson inside to buy ice cream for us. He came out of Baskin Robinson with ice cream, and his wife was extremely pissed at him, really mad at him. They wouldn't talk. We didn't notice anything wrong. We tried to figure out what just happened between them. She's not hiding it. Well, when he was in Baskin Robinson, cashier smiled to him, and she was pretty. And this thing is that for the rest of the day, they had hell between each other.
We were stuck in the middle of
We're
it.
and we're trying to figure out what just happened. Later on, we kind of found out, like, awkward. What do we do? We're trying to back out. If you don't have trust with each other, you're in a lot of trouble. I trust my wife 100%. Let me go back. I work as a general manager at a company. So every time we hire a person, in a little bit, we interview, 3-month review we do. And I would say, hey, let's go ahead and meet up at a restaurant. We'll take you to a 3-month review with you. We'll sit down with that person. Once there was a girl that worked for us. She was fairly attractive, dressed a little bit inappropriate. And I was doing a review for her. And my wife was like, hey, and I told her, hey, I did a review with Lauren. She goes, you went by yourself with her? I'm like, yeah, what's wrong? Like, we were in public. She goes, you're a minister. What if somebody sees you? Not that we don't trust you. Not that I don't trust you. But how would that look like? Obviously, I stood to my point. You're wrong, I'm right. But that sank down on me. I started thinking, what does she mean by it? Do you not trust me? I would talk to her. Do you not believe in me anymore? What happened up here? We were in a public place. There was nothing. She goes, I felt hurt. And after that, maybe a year later, took around that. Maybe I agreed about it. I said that, honey, I made a decision. I will never break bread with somebody opposite sex when you're not there alone. That is not jealousy, but that also she felt violated in a way that you can relate to that. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? That person, like I said, she was pretty. She was inappropriately always поводилась all around, and she felt like hurt by it. You want to add anything to that one?
So the jealousy can be justified, but the Baskin Robbins lady, she was
Yeah.
That was unhealthy jealousy, yeah. Well, for me, it was not even a jealousy. It's because he was a minister already. And I've read that what kind of boundaries married men should have with any woman, especially a minister. Like Billy Graham would never meet one-on-one with women. A lot of books are written about this, and a lot of the pastors will even have a window. Like in our church, our pastor has a window. So if he does meet with somebody, he has a huge window to the outside, humongous. and his door has a window. So if he does have to meet with a woman one-on-one for whatever issue she's having, maybe a single lady, maybe a widow, there's nobody can ever say anything because these are the boundaries.
Yeah,
His
but-
wife will.
Yeah, but we also, for our pastoral team in our church, we also added additional. Don't go in the office to talk to a person opposite sex one-on-one. Even with a window, sit in a public place. So I do deal with a lot of people, youth, and they come to me, I want to talk to you. Исповедоваться, confess, or something problem that they're having with marriage. So one thing I do, I open the door wherever we're talking. Sometimes it's in California, some different, open the door. The moment the conversation goes into sexual, that she's something battling with addiction, either pornography or anything, there's a lot of things happen. Automatically, I pause the conversation. Can I get with your permission, pastor's wife or youth pastor's wife, to sit in with us? I will not continue with this conversation. Out of my respect for you and my wife. Because I don't need to go into somebody's details because it's inappropriate and it's wrong. Do I stay in that room? Yes, I'm leading the conversation, but now I have additional person in my room that I'm counseling with that can help, especially when I'm traveling in a different church, that we try to stay in touch so she will continue to counsel that person. Out of respect for my wife. You can put barriers. Right now we do ministry in Nicaragua. In summer, we have 20 young girls that go with us. They know my rule. I will never be on one-on-one on campus with a girl. Not trust. Даже не давать повода для дьявола. Not to give it any hint for that, anything. To completely, because if God is using you, you have to draw barriers. You have to be respectful. Jealousy, if you have a problem with jealousy, you have a problem with trust. You have to pray, and like Pavel said, sometimes it is more deeper inside. And sometimes you have to have ministers pray for you that God would break and destroy that. You have to trust your spouse. Otherwise, you are living in hell.
And years later, I spoke to the same girl about the situation, and she said that was her. She was all wrong. When she was confident in herself, she stopped suspecting her husband, and they have beautiful marriage now. It was just that first couple years that she was doing these weird things because she was not confident in herself. She maybe could not believe that he can love her. When she got okay with herself, got healthy inside, everything fixed. There's no more jealousy in that marriage.
Yeah, guys, I've even heard among Slavics that they don't let their wife do anything. She's literally in cage. They're paranoid to let her out. Don't do anything. She's locked in home, and that's hell. And those people need deliverance or a lot of counseling. That's a big, big problem. Marriage should be built on trust. You love somebody, you trust them. If you don't have that, I just can't imagine that type of marriage. Believe in your husband. And so we're going to go talk a little bit about romance. You know, God has created sex within perimeters of marriage. And that is something beautiful, and it's something that keeps us together. When we look at this, if there was no intimacy in marriage, believe me, there would never be, truck drivers would never come home. Intimacy is what keeps us together. One of the greatest things about conflict is that right after conflict, you have best sex. Do you understand what I'm saying?
But if conflict resolved,
Of course. Тільки так. Because, listen, because, no, we're talking, why? Because that's something that, it's a different level of love. And if we go into Greek, it's eros love. And it is intimate. You can only have it. And it heals a lot of wounds. And it rebuilds your marriage, makes it stronger. So in order for you to have, I know a lot of people talk that men have a harder, bigger sex drive, and this is their thing. Girls and guys, God created equally. there's a different approach to both sexes. There's a need for both sexes in intimacy. There's needs to be closeness between each other. There's one of the biggest complaints that people have is that this is when you have in intimacy, if you have one is selfish and one is giving, it's a big problem. It has to be balanced between both spouses because they're both supposed to enjoy it. But before you get to that level, you have to build up on it. Хазяйка говорить, one of the biggest complaints that women offer towards intimacy that he doesn't care for me. He only cares for himself. That is a wrong approach in intimacy. Your goal as men to make sure that you provide level of satisfaction for your wife. And you have to, and that takes time within, not just right away, but sometimes it takes time within your life, to build up on that. If you had just called her name, or don't treat her right, and you buy her flowers, and then you expect intimacy, it's not going to work. Her body doesn't adjust that quickly. You have to have a good relationship with each other. That's when it works the best. And do you want to add something? Your favorite topic? She's like, I'll talk about everything except this.
No, the only thing I can say is talk about it. Some people are so embarrassed to discuss it within marriage. You have to talk about it. There are books about it. You read a book together, and then you discuss it, and then you learn. And marriage and intimacy is a lifelong process of learning what each other likes, what each other needs, and what each other prefers. And we have to respect each other's preferences and needs and wants.
Yeah. Alena, just talk about it. A lot of us, we come from many different backgrounds. Alena's mom talked to her about intimacy before she got married. Some people talk down about intimacy as in a sinful, como te grig, something. If you don't break that barriers, you'll have a miserable sex life. Understand? And this is one of the gifts that God has given. Somebody asked, how often do you have sex? А той другий каже, один раз в день хватить или два рази в день? You guys, the way I look at it, the more often you have intimacy, the better relationship you have. What does that mean? That means you're coming to the closeness of another person, as close as you can come. You become one. And if you want to have a good relationship with your spouse, have as much as you can. As much as find a way, find a moment. I know anywhere, be spontaneous. Don't make it complicated. You know what? When we were getting married, we thought that Alena's like, hey, she imagined intimacy was going to be like in the movies. Romantic. It was so dirty and everything else. Like, you were like, what happened to the movies? You know what I mean? Guys, it is beautiful. It is given to you between husband and wife that shares it. And talk about what feels good for you. Be open with each other. Go ahead, Pyle.
See, how to know in sexual intimacy when there is normal, when there is a spiritual signs of a problem. For example, I have a friend, and he always was upset because his wife was rejecting him. She always had a fear. She never had any feelings towards him, and he felt like he, and she was saying, you're crazy, you never know. Maybe you have that spirit of adultery following you, whatever, you know. And she never that, so after that, I came to the point that there is two demons. Can be a generational spirit of fornication and adultery, or it can be generational spirit of adultery that locks up the person and have no feelings to make a hell in the family. So when she got resolved her spiritual issue, get delivered from that spirit that was generational, he came to work for me like planting trees, and he didn't want to get paid at the end of the day. He said, "Oh, you helped me with this bad problem. I don't know how you can work a year free for you because you helped me with the things that I could never imagine can be resolved." So I came to the point, if there is one of the partners they have hatred towards intimacy or fear or don't have any feelings or desires, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Or other person, if it's never enough, there is also wrong. There can be spirit behind that that's never enough, which is not what God wanted to be.
Yeah. So there's different people have different sex drives by health. Sometimes people have they're not able to have intimacy because of certain health reasons. You have to be respectful to your spouse. That is, but a lot of us have been raised in many different backgrounds, extremely traditional families. Either we never talked about it, but they talked about intimacy or sex is only when you have children. Or a mom or dad it's sinful. Just do it because you have to do it. They teach their daughters. You're not I've heard families that mother was telling the daughter, "Don't you dare enjoy it when you get married. It's not for you to enjoy it. It's very sinful." That is a wrong approach. And this young girl that's getting married, she has this imagination that you're never supposed to enjoy it. And when she does have climax, she feels sinful. She feels dirty. She feels guilty. That is a wrong approach. And if you believe that, you have to reject it in your life. Because intimacy was given by God and abused by the devil. It was given by God as a demonstration of closeness. It is given by God that keeps us together. And the way I look at it, have as much intimacy as you can all the time. And I mean it. When people talk about, we get together with sometimes with ministers, somebody says, bring up, hey, how we talk about intimacy, for example. Well, my wife would never ever give it to me once in every long moon. That's not normal. But the problem is that what is the core? What is the problem? You have to also look at it. Or a wife has a sex drive, and the thing is that this guy always there's the problems equally. In intimacy, your body belongs to your spouse. But why do sometimes girls don't want to have intimacy? It's self-confidence. Or you put her down, you insult her. And she has self-conscience towards herself. There's no way you're getting any of that because she doesn't love her own body. And you're not going to get very far. Yes, you might have intimacy, but she'll never have a lot of feelings, or she would never reach anything. Go ahead, honey. Add more. You said you want to talk about this topic.
I know you said physically can be something. I know one guy, they got married, they were happy for a while, and then he went to America because he got married in Ukraine. And then when his wife finally came to America, he became sexually disabled. And he said, "Oh, this is my physical problem. We can do other things in the family without this. We can raise kids. We can go."
He said that, huh?
Yeah, he said that. And the wife was losing her mind. Something was going wrong. She started cheating on him. So they went to they get kicked out from the church. And the pastor said, "Oh, you're not faithful. Okay, get out from church. That's it. That's all we can do, you know." And lately, when it came to the point, what happened? When they got married, they had a normal relationship, both ends. But when he was out of the country for half year, he was a truck driver and slept with some kind of demon-possessed prostitute, and that demon got inside him and locked him up, so he becomes sexually disabled. He never confessed the sin. He never stopped. It did not happen right away. It happened after a few months. So what happened after he resolved his spiritual issue, confessing sin, getting out from this demon possession or influence, whatever you call it, he becomes sexually healthy again, and the marriage starts building up again. So there are a lot of demons behind sexual problems.
But the thing is that anytime you open the door to adultery, you're opening a door into spiritual world. Anytime you become one with a person, you're one with the person. And when people commit adultery, they literally become one with another person as well. In the spiritual sphere you open up, that can happen due causes. One of the seminars I was in, and the speaker said, make sure you never let each other go hungry from intimacy. If you feed your husband, I'm talking about intimacy, he'll never look at somebody else because you keep him satisfied. If you satisfy your wife, she'll never look somebody else because you keep her satisfied. That's not just in sex, but that's the whole package in every sphere that builds up to oneness that we have. And it's very important in our life. This.
But if other person does everything possible to be satisfied, but if other person is not satisfied yet, there is a spiritual problem. It needs to be delivered.
There could be, but I don't put everything into deliverance. Maybe sometimes you got to talk it out. Maybe there's more in somebody. For example, let me tell you something real quickly. Some people say sex is for men. What was the study we read that girls feel 10 times have higher orgasms than guys? Well, go ahead. No. No.
I don't remember statistics, but it's true.
They have more nerve endings. Girls feel 10 times better than guys. Guys, do you understand what I'm saying? It's not for men. It's equally yoked for both people. And you have to work on your intimacy in your bed until you make sure both your wife receives the satisfaction that was given by God. Don't just, я получив, I'm done, I'm going to sleep, а вона сидить розбита. What just happened? Do you understand that? Або приходить, було one of the things, каже, я з дітьми цілий день, я лягла на минутку, він трак-барабах, перевернувся, пішов спати. Я сижу, думаю, далі. Він з роботи прийшов. Вонючий, грязний і ще тако. You know, sex actually takes away your stress and release nerves and pressure and anxiety. It was given by God. And it's healthy. It is very healthy. That's why it's a blessing within marriage. That's why we're talking about it. And be spontaneous with each other. Have fun. It is a blessing from God for your marriage. You know what George W. told me when he was marrying us? Because it just gets better. Honey, say something. So we're going to go ahead and conclude. It's 3 o'clock, this topic. Anybody has any questions or something you want to add? Go ahead.
Чем закончилась история
Со
со Starbucks?
Starbucks?
Но вы сказали, что
Financial. Oh, I stopped going to Starbucks. Got a coffee machine at home, barista.
Mormons don't drink coffee because it's addiction.
Ну да. Yeah.
So вы согласились на то, что она сказала?
Yeah. No, the things that we always find common
When you
ground.
presented a certain way, when I presented how much we spend, his eyes opened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say, okay, we're going to spend more.
No, the thing is that you always have to find common ground. So let's say right now I go to Starbucks, no big deal because I go once every 2 years or whatever. No problem. I can go to Starbucks. I can go to any coffee shop. No problem. It was then we were financially difficult season going through. We were a young married couple, and financially a lot of bills, a lot of responsibility. And sometimes you got to sacrifice your coffee. Sometimes you got to sacrifice your own in order
For us
to
shopping.
yeah. So let's say you're more financially stable, you can permit more. But if you're not financially stable and you go and you buy this guitar, you always want it for $3,000 kind of doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Maybe there's a time for you to buy that guitar, but maybe not now. Always find common ground.
Or somebody buy for you.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Any more questions about these topics? Conflict, or maybe somebody wants to add, and intimacy.
Right. Whoever has the weak point in finances should listen to the person with the strong character in finance. Like, if you have a weak, if you know this is your weakness in a character, you should let your wife take care of this, and not to be stubborn and do your way and screw up the family life, right?
У нас были такие сейчас ситуации, где сейчас были семьи, где жены зарабатывали больше. Почему? Сейчас, скажем, особенно если в Вашингтоне, общаясь с моим одним другом, жена работает в госпитале, получает $45 в час, он, впрочем, может только зарабатывать 20. Твоя теория сработает здесь? Нет.
No, it doesn't count how much people make money, how wisely they understand how to spend it.
Ну, в Вашингтоне, Паша, там, по-моему, все женщины зарабатывают больше мужиков. И в Орегоне тоже.
Поэтому
Так
здесь
что-
так не работает. Вот. Здесь нужно опять, наверное, прийти к тому, что вот сейчас опять мы говорили, да? Насколько мы trusting. Если у нас приходит проблема как раз в этот корень, если мы, скажем, у меня то же самое и договор, скажем, мы тратим, если я трачу $500, значит я звоню, да? А если она тратит 50, она звонит. Вот. Я шучу, да. Я шучу. Вот. Понимаете, да? Некоторые вещи, особенно финансовые.
Хорошая шутка, кстати. Ну, хорошая.
Правильная пропорция, правильно, да? Вот. Кстати, почему-то говорю, что когда мы делаем финансовую часть, очень важно, чтобы мы, особенно если о финансах говорить, потому что они сильно влияют на семью. Они влияют на отношения, когда их слишком много и когда их слишком мало. Вот эти две части, когда мы встречаемся, что в семье есть проблема, финансовая часть тоже очень важна. Поэтому я бы так посмотрел на твой вопрос, именно, что если кто-то умеет распоряжаться, значит нужно, чтобы тот человек и решал. Решать должна семья вместе, оба.
Work together, but the thing is that и тоже, я знаю, есть семья, которая знакомая. Она пошла проучить своего мужа, купила шьюзы на $20 тысяч.
И не позвонила.
И не позвонила. True story. To hurt him. Yeah.
Я помню, когда купили кольцо за 30 тысяч, и шарик его унес. Когда он хотел подарить ей, но шарик не удержал это все.
Даже кому-то это кольцо сильно нужно было.
Ну, скажем, в штате Орегон мог бы и в океан попасть. Это такое.
There you go. No, every sphere of your life, you are one. Every sphere of your life, you are one. The more you work together, the stronger relationship and marriage you have. Remember this example. Give me the triangle over there. Remember this example, the triangle example. God has given her gifts, but when you work together, you have all the spheres covered. Work together in every sphere, in intimacy, in finances, in conflicts, to resolve everything. In raising your kids, if you're going to be raising your kids, make yourself look good and make your spouse look bad, you're dividing, destroying the family. Equally yoked. Sometimes if your wife says no, just because she said no to the kids, you have to stand and support her to make sure the kids realize that she has authority. But when you undermine her authority once, twice, 5 times, 10 times, your kids will treat her like trash because you've permitted them to do that. Sometimes you have to speak up and pick up your voice to your kids if they undermine your spouse's authority. And I do that sometimes. Now, kids, they kind of figure out, they try to undermine. But you have to stick up for the person who's the closest to you. And the best type of relationship is when you're learning together, moving together, and compromising to make things work. And if you put God number one. So if we're done with this topic, we're going to pray right now. Maybe somebody needs a prayer or any more questions, anything somebody wants to add. Такая тишина, а мысли двигаются быстро. Anything, anyone?
Question comes to mind. So talking to different people, like personal inhibitions or misconceptions in relationship, especially when it comes to intimacy. How do you deal with that? Or what advice do you give people who misunderstand intimacy and the closeness of it?
Books, podcasts. Talk to them. There's a big problem.
With a premarital couple, we do tell them, guys, forget movies. It's nothing like a movie. And we do go into some things, like it's going to be, get, wipes, prepare for honeymoon, buy this, discuss birth control before you go on honeymoon. We do make them think about this before they get to it.
Alena, underline birth control. One of the questions is that anything that causes abortion is a sin. Period. Whatever works, people calculate dates, people use different things. But if it causes any abortion, there's a Dobson's also website has a lot of things is that don't agree. If somebody does it, doesn't mean it's okay. You have to calculate it. You have to see if it causes abortion, you are sinning. I will be very clear. Any birth protection or conception that you have.
So pretty much, if people do to prevent fertilization, it's okay. But if people do something to destroy fertilization, even 1 hour after get fertilized,
It's abortion. You aborted the baby.
so like Plan B things.
I don't know those Plan Bs. I know also you have to be, for example.
Yes, it's abortion, yes.
Yeah.
Plan B.
Yeah, I don't know with those things. But the thing is that, for example, some people put their spouses on, or their spouses go on the pill, and her hormones go out of whack. You guys got to balance things out. Whatever you do, I'm not going to tell you what you cannot do. You have to make a decision between you, God, and your wife. That's the way I look at it. In every decision that you make, but if it causes abortion, or once the egg is fertilized and you stop that egg, it is in a way I consider it that it's wrong. Somebody says you should have kids every single year. You should not plan family. I disagree with that theory. I grew up in a big family. Not that my parents loving everything good, but you have to understand. Jesus said, when he was talking about being born again, not from the desire of a flesh or a husband. We do have a right, and we should plan family. And all the kids that God gives you, even if they happen by an accident in your category, receive them. They're not an accident. They're God sent gift into your life.